Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our responsive header series into this single long video. And in this video, we are basically creating this responsive header from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So we'll design the desktop and the mobile version of this header. And I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. And then in the end, I'll also show you how to add this design to your Blogger website. So let's get started. Now in this first video, we will write the HTML of this design, and in the next video we will add the CSS and we'll also see how to make it responsive. So here I have opened up a folder called responsive header in VS Code, and I also have this folder called images over here, and in that we have these images which we're going to use in our design. And I will leave the link of these images in the description of this video, so you can just go ahead and download it. Now let's start by creating an HTML file. So let's click on new file and we'll just create a file called index.html. And let's also create a CSS file. So I'll just click on new file and we'll just name it style.css. Alright, let's go to our index.html file, and in VS Code you have this shortcut where you can just press exclamation and press tab and you'll have this basic HTML5 code, and then you can just add the link of the CSS file over here. So I'll just type link and press tab, and in the href I'll just type style.css. And first of all, let's create the markup for the navigation menu. So if you go back to the design, we can see that this is our navigation menu. And here we can see on the left we have the logo, and on the right we have these menu items and also these social media icons. So let's create a container division for this navigation menu. So I'll just create a division with the class of nav container, and in that we will have a nav element, and in the nav element we will have the logo and these other elements. Now for the logo, we'll just create a division with the class of logo, and here I'll just type lb dot. Now let me just open this in a browser. So I have this extension called live server installed in VS Code, so you can just install this. And once you do that, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on open with live server, and here we can see our logo is being displayed. Now the next thing we need to have is these menu items. So for that we'll create a division with the class of menu items. So here after the nav, I'll just create a division with the class of menu items, and in that we will have anchor tags for all the menu items. And here for the href, I'll just type hash for now. You can just type the link of your pages over here. Alright, the menu items are home, about, services and contact. So let's add them over here. And I'll just duplicate this line. You can just press shift and alt and press the down arrow and it'll be duplicated. The next one is about, and then we have services, and then lastly we have contact. Alright, now the next thing we need to have is the social media icons container. So let's create a division for that. I'll just create a division with the class of social, and in that we will have anchor tags, and in the anchor tags we will have the images. And here in the href you can just type the links of your social media pages. So the first one we need to have is Facebook. So here in the anchor tag, I'll just create an img tag, and in the source I'll just type images/facebook.png, and I'll just copy this anchor tag and paste it 2 more times. And the next image we need to have is Instagram, and then we have Twitter. So I'll just type images/instagram.png, and then we have images/twitter.png. Right, now let's go back to our design, and here we can see we have all the elements. We have the logo, the menu items and the social media icons. Now the next thing we need to have is this hero section over here. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a container division for this. Now here we can see we have this linear gradient background color, and it covers the whole screen. So we have to create a container division for that. And for all the other content inside this hero section, we have a fixed width. So we'll just create a header element for that, and we'll just give it a fixed width in CSS. So let's go back to our HTML, and let's go outside this nav container division. So here outside this, we'll just add a comment. So you can just press Ctrl and /, and here I'll just type end of nav menu. And here let's create a division with the class of header wrapper. You can name these classes anything you want, and this header wrapper will have this background color. And for all the other content inside the header wrapper, we'll just create a header, and we'll just give it a class of my header. And on the left side we have this text content and these buttons. So for that we'll create a division with the class of text content. And in that, the first thing we need to have is the heading. So I'll just tap H1 and I'll just copy this text from here and I'll just paste it inside this heading. Now the next thing we need to have is these two lines of text over here. So for that, let's create a division with the class of subheading. So here after the heading, I'll just type subheading, and in that we need to have two paragraphs. So I'll just copy this from here and we'll just create a paragraph tag and I'll just paste it over here. And let's create one more paragraph tag, and here I'll just copy this text and let's paste it over here. Alright, now the next thing we need to have are these buttons. So for that, let's create a division with the class of buttons. And for the buttons, we will have anchor tags. So let's go back over here and let's create anchor tag. And here in the href, I'll just type hash for now. And we'll also give it a class of btn so that we can style it in our CSS. And here for the first button, we have this text learn more. And then we have a button called try it. So I'll just duplicate this and here I'll just type try it. Right, that's it with the text content. Now here on the right side, we have this image and we also have this background shape. So for that, let's go back outside this text content division, which is right here, and we'll just create a division with the class of image. And in that, we'll have this image. So I'll just create an img tag, and in the src, I'll just type images / and I have saved it as heroimage.png. And then for this background shape, we're going to have a division with the class of image_bg, and we'll just style it using CSS to make it look like this. So that's it with the HTML of our design. This is the HTML of our design, and this is how it looks right now. And we have already linked our CSS file over here. So here we can see we have this link, and we have the style.css file linked over here. So let's head over to our CSS file and let's start styling this page. First of all, let's reset the margins, and we'll set the margin of the body to 0. So I'll just type body and I'll just set the margin to 0. And now we can see that we don't have the default margin of the body. Now the first thing we will do is we will style the nav container. So here we can see this is the nav container. If you go back to the HTML, we can see we have created this division with the class of nav container, and in that we have this nav element, and this should not end over here. So let's delete this from here, and it should end after these social media icons. So we will end it over here. Alright, here we have this nav element, and in that we have the logo and we have the menu items and also the social media icons. So let's style this. First of all, let's style this nav container division. So let's go back to our style.css file and let's type .nav container. And first of all, let's set the position to fixed so that it will always be at the top even if we scroll down or up. And let's set the top position to 0. And let's go back to our design. And let's also add a font family. So we're going to add a font called Roboto. So first of all, let's get the link of the font. You can just go over here to fonts.google.com and just search for the font. So we want to have the Roboto font, and I'll just click on this font. And we need to have two styles. We need to have the regular one. So I'll just select this regular 400 from here. And we also need to have the bold version. So I'll just select black version from here. And let's copy this link from here, and we'll just paste it inside our HTML head section. So here in this head section, I'll just paste the link. Right now, let's go back to our style.css file and we'll just type font family, and we'll just set the font to Roboto and sans serif. Right now, let's style the nav inside the nav container. So I'll just type nav container nav, and let's set a background color of 293241. And here we can see our nav. We'll set the width of this to 1200 pixels. I'll just type max width and we'll set it to 1200 pixels. And right now the width is not being added over here because we have set the position of this nav container to fixed. Now for the width to be applied, we have to set the left position to 0 and the right position to 0. And now we can see we have the width applied, and we'll also bring it to the center. So I'll just type margin 0 for top and bottom and auto for left and right. Now here we can see we have this logo over here, and below that we have the menu items, and below that we have these icons, but we want all of them to be one next to the other. So for that we can set the display to flex. So here I'll just type display to flex, and now we can see all the elements are one next to the other. Now we want the logo to be on the extreme left and all these elements to be on this right corner. So for that we can use a property called justify content and set it to space between. And now we can see we have the logo over here at the left, and we have the menu items at the center, and then we have the icons at the right corner. But we want these menu items and also these icons to be together at the right. So here we can see in our design we have all of them at the right corner. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see we have created a division with the class of menu items, and then we have this division with the class of social. So I'll just cut this social division from here, and I'll just paste it inside this menu items division. And now we can see that the logo is on the left and all these elements are on the right. Right now let's add some more styles. So let's go back to our style.css file, and I'll just add some padding. So I'll just set a padding of 4 pixels top and bottom, and I'll just set a padding of 48 pixels for left and right. Now we also need to have a box shadow at the bottom, and we also need to have rounded corners over here at the bottom left and at the bottom right. So let's type box shadow, and we'll set the values to 0, 4 pixels, 8 pixels, negative 4 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.4, and let's set the border radius for rounded corners, and we'll set it to 0, 0 for the top corners, and for bottom left and bottom right we'll just type 20 pixels, 20 pixels. And now if you go back to our design, we can see that we have the rounded corners and we also have the box shadow. Right now let's style this logo. So here I'll just type nav container, nav logo, because here we can see in the HTML we have this division with the class of logo, and in that we have the logo. So let's set the font size to 30 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 900, and we'll set the color of the text to F8, F9, FA, and here we can see we have the logo. Now we want this logo to be at the center vertically. So for that let's go over here to the nav element, and here we'll also add one more property called align items to the center, and now we can see it is in the center vertically. Right now let's style these elements on the right. So here let's type nav container, and if you go back to the HTML, here we can see we have this division with the class of menu items. So let's target that. So you'll just type menu items, and here we can see we have these elements one below the other. We want them to be one next to the other, so let's set the display to flex, and we'll also align it to the center, and now we can see that they are one next to the other. Right now let's style these menu items. So here we'll just type nav container menu items, and we'll target the anchor tag. So here I'll just type greater than a. Now we are using this selector over here because if you go back to the HTML, here we can see we have these anchor tags over here, but we also have the anchor tags inside the social division. Now we don't want to select these anchor tags, we just want to select the anchor tags inside the menu items. So for that we have to use this greater than selector over here. So it will select just the anchor tags over here. It won't select the other anchor tags which is inside the other divisions. So let's go over here and let's add some styles over here. First of all, let's set the color of the text to this light color, and we'll also add some margin between these menu items. So let's type margin, and we'll set it to 0 for top and bottom and 24 pixels for left and right. And we'll also remove the underlines by typing text decoration to none. Right now when we hover over these elements, we want to have an underline. So here we can see when we hover over this, we have this underline over here below these menu items. For that we're going to use an after selector. So let's go over here and let's type nav container menu items a colon hover colon colon after, and in the after we need to have a content property. So let's type content. Now if we type something over here like 1 2 3, and here we can see when we hover over these elements we have 1 2 3 written. So the after selector is used to add some extra content to the elements. Now we don't want to have 1 2 3 written over here, we want to have an underline. So let's go back over here and I'll just delete 1 2 3 from here, and let's add an underline over here. So we'll set the position of the underline relative to the anchor tag. So for that, here in the anchor tag we need to have position, and we'll set it to relative, and here we need to set the position to absolute. And now for the underline we'll just have a height of 4 pixels, and for the width we will set it to 100% of the element, and we'll set the background color to the light color. and we'll set the bottom position to negative 13 pixels. This is what I calculated. And now let's go over here and hover over these menu items, and we can see that we have the underlines, but we also have to set the left position to 0. So let's go back over here and we will set the left position to 0. And now we can see we have the underlines when we hover over these menu items. Right now let's style these icons. Right now for the icons we have this division with a class of social. So let's target that. So here I'll just type nav container social, and we will set the background color to C1F DFF, and we'll also set a padding of 4 pixels top and bottom and 16 pixels left and right. And we'll also have a border radius for rounded corners. So I'll just type border radius of 20 pixels. Right now these icons are not exactly in the center of the container division. So for that we have to add a property called vertical align to the image. So let's type nav container social img, and we'll just type vertical align and we'll set it to middle. Now it is exactly in the center. Now when we hover over these images, we need to increase the size of the image. So let's add a hover effect over here. So I'll just type nav container social img colon hover, and we'll just set the transform scale and we'll set it to 1.1. And now we can see that the images are changing size when we hover over them. You can also add a smooth transition to the animation. So here we can just type transition and we can set it to all 500 milliseconds. And now if you hover over this, we have the smooth transition. Right now let's target the anchor tags and let's set some margin between these different icons. So let's type nav container social A for the anchor tag. And if you go back to the index.html file, here we can see we have these anchor tags, and in that we have the images. So for the anchor tags we will set a margin of 0 for top and bottom and 16 pixels for left and right. And now we can see we have this gap between these images. And let's also remove these underlines from these images. So for that you can just type text decoration and we'll set it to none. And now we don't have the underlines. Alright, that's it with the navigation menu. Now the next thing we're going to style is the header wrapper. So for the header wrapper we need to have this linear gradient background color. So if you go back to the HTML, here we can see we have this division with a class of header wrapper, and in that we have all the elements inside the header. And let's target that over here in the CSS. So here I'll just type header, and here we'll just type header wrapper, and we need to add the background color that we have over here. Now there's a website that generates different kinds of backgrounds, so you can use this website called cssgradient.io, and just go to this option called backgrounds, and here you can see there are a lot of different gradients that you can select from, and you can just copy the CSS from here and add it to your CSS. You have different options over here. You have UI gradients, you have gradient, you also have gradient hunt and web gradients. So if you want to have this color, you can just click on this button called copy gradient code, and the CSS will be copied. You can just paste it in your CSS. Now I'll just paste the code that I generated from this website. This is the code that I generated, and if you go back to our website, we can see we have this background color. Right now let's style the elements inside the header wrapper. So if you go back to the HTML, here we can see inside the header wrapper we have this header with a class of my header, and in that we have the text content and we also have the image. Now we want both these elements to be one next to the other, so here we can add display of flex to this my header. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type my header, and we'll just set the display to flex, and we'll also align it to the center vertically, and justify content to space between, because we want the text content to be on the extreme left and the image to be on the extreme right. So here we have the my header division. Now we want to set a fixed width for this my header. So let's give it a maximum width of 1100 pixels, and we'll also bring it to the center. So we'll just type margin 0 auto, and we'll also set a font family of Roboto and set the height to 100 viewport height. Right now let's style this heading. So for the heading we have an h1. Here we can see we have this h1. So let's target that. I'll just type my header h1, and we'll set the font size to 65 pixels, and we'll just set the font weight to 900, and we don't want to have any margins, so I'll just type margin 0. Right now let's target this subheading. So if you go back to the HTML, we have a division with the class of subheading, and in that we have these paragraphs. So let's target the subheading division first. So I'll just type my header subheading, and for the subheading we will have a background color of 073B4C, and let's also add a padding of 18 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right, and we'll also set a margin of 24 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right, and we'll also have a border radius of 20 pixels. And for the H1 we need to change the color of the text, so here we just type color, and we'll set the color to E0FBFC. Right now let's style these paragraphs inside the subheading. So let's type my header subheading P, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and we'll set the color of the text to E0FBFC. Right now let's style these buttons. So for the button we have a class called btn, so let's target that. I'll just type my header btn, and we'll just remove the underlines by typing text decoration to none, and I will set a background color of E0FBFC, and we'll also add a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom and 30 pixels left and right, and let's also add border radius, and we'll set it to 30 pixels, and let's set the font weight to 900, and we'll also set the color of the text to 07B4C. Now let's set the display of these buttons to inline block, because anchor tags are by default display of inline, so we may have some problems of margin and padding, so it is always a good idea to set the display of the anchor tags, which are buttons, to inline block. And let's set a margin top of 8 pixels and margin right of 20 pixels. Right now let's also add some box shadow. So let's type box shadow, and we'll set the values to 0, 4 pixels, 24 pixels, negative 8 pixels, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.3. And now we can see we have these shadows for the button. Now when you hover over these buttons, we need to increase the size of these buttons. So for that let's add a hover effect. So I'll just type my header btn :hover, and we'll set the transform scale, and we'll set it to 1.1, and we'll also add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition and set it to all 500 milliseconds. And now when you hover over this, we have these hover effects. Right now the last thing we need to style is this image. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see we have this division with the class of image, and in that we have the img tag. So let's go back over here, and let's type my header image img, and we'll set the height of the image to 600 pixels. Now here we can see that the image is not positioned correctly. It should be at the bottom of the screen. So for that we have to target the container division, which is the image, and let's type my header image, and we have set the display to flex for this my header over here. So for this my header we have set the display to flex, and we also have aligned it to the center. So here we can see we have the text content and also the image, and both of them are aligned in the center vertically, so that's why this image is in the center of the screen. Now we have to set the alignment of the image to flex end. So let's type align self, and we'll set it to flex end, and now we can see that the image is at the bottom, but we have a little bit of gap between the image and the bottom. So for that we have to add a property called vertical align and set it to middle, and now we can see everything looks alright. Now the last thing we need to do is add this background shape over here. So for that we have this division with the class of image bg, and let's style that in our CSS. So here we'll just type my header image bg, Now we have to set the position of this image BG relative to the image division. So here for the image division we'll set the position to relative, and here in the image BG we will set the position to absolute, and we'll set a height of 500 pixels and a width of 430 pixels, and let's set a background color of RGBA 255, 255, 255 and 0.9 for the opacity, and let's set the left position to negative 14 pixels and the top position to 22 pixels. Now you can just experiment with these left and top positions and also the height and the width to get the desired look for you. Now this is how it looks right now. Now the image should be at the top of this shape, so for the image we need to have a Z index and we need to set it to, let's say, 100. And now still the image is not at the top, so for that we also have to set the position to relative, because we have a position of absolute for this image BG, so we have to set some position over here for the image as well. And now we can see we have the image at the top. Now we also need to add some border radius and we also need to rotate it a little bit. So let's do that. So here I'll just type transform rotate Z, and we'll set it to 5 degrees, and we'll also add a border radius of 20 pixels. And now we can see that we have the background shape at the correct position. Now in our original design we have less width for this nav container, and we also have a little bit of margin top for this H1. So let's go back to the H1 and let's set a margin top of 50 pixels. And now here for the nav container, if you right click over here and go to inspect, and if we hover over this nav element, we can see that we have a width of 1296. But if you go back to the CSS and if you go to the nav, here we can see we have set a width of 1200 pixels, but we have a lot more width in our design. Now the reason for that is that we have added this padding over here as well, so it is added to the width of the element. Now if you don't want that to happen, you can add a property called box sizing and set it to border box. And now if we right click over here and go to inspect, and if we inspect the nav, we can see that we have the exact width of 1200 pixels. So you can set the box sizing to border box if you want to have the exact width. So that's basically it with the design of the desktop version. Alright, this is how the desktop version looks right now, and we have these hover effects over here as well for these icons and even for these buttons. Alright, now let's start with the mobile version, and I have reduced the width of the browser window, and this is how it looks right now. So let's go to our style.css, and first of all let's remove this nav bar from here. So in the mobile version we don't want to have this nav bar, we're going to create a new nav bar for that. So let's scroll down, and here let's add a media query. So I'll just type at media, and I'll just type max width of 700 pixels. So now what this does is that when the width of the browser window is less than 700 pixels, whatever styles we have over here will be added to the website. So for example, if I just select everything and if I just type display none, then we can see that nothing is being displayed over here in our website. But if we increase the width of the browser window, we can see that everything is being displayed. So when the width of the browser window is less than 700 pixels, all these styles are being added to our website. Right now that we know that our media queries are working, let's delete these lines of CSS. And first of all, let's remove this nav bar from here. So here I'll just type nav container, and I'll just set the display to none. And now we can see that the nav bar is not displayed in our mobile version. And we'll also remove this image from here, because in our mobile version we don't have the space to add the image. So here I'll just add the selector of the image as well. So I'll just type my header image. Right now the image is not being displayed. Now let's reduce the font size of this heading. So let's type my header h1, and we'll set the font size to 50 pixels. And now let's style the my header division. So let's type my header, and first of all let's add a padding of 32 pixels. And in our desktop version we had given a height of 100 viewport height to the my header. So here we can see we have set a height of 100 viewport height. So let's unset the height over here in the mobile version. So I'll just type height and unset, so that the height will be adjusted even if we have different sizes of device. And we will set a minimum height and we'll set it to 100 viewport height. So it should have at least a height of 100 viewport height, but it will still be okay if we have a height more than 100 viewport height. So the minimum height should be 100 viewport height. And now we can see that we have this scroll bar over here. That's because we have added this padding over here and we have set the height to 100 viewport height. So for that we have to use a property called box sizing and we have to set it to border box. And now we can see that we have the correct height. Right now for this paragraph we will increase the space between the lines of text. So let's target the paragraph. So I'll just type my header P and we'll set the line height to 1.8. And now we can see we have a lot more space between these lines of text. Right now let's add a different navigation menu for the mobile devices. So let's go back to our HTML and let's scroll down, and here let's add the markup of the mobile navigation. And here before the body ends, I'll just add a division with the class of mobile nav menu. And in that we're going to have a logo over here on the left and we will have a menu icon on the right. So let's create a division with the class of logo and I'll just type lb dot. So here we can see the logo at the bottom. We will move it to the top using CSS. And then we also need to have the menu icon. So let's create a division with the class of menu icons, because we're going to add the close icon as well as the menu icon. So if you go to the images folder, here I have this image called close icon.png and also an image called menu icon.png. So first of all, let's add this menu icon.png. So here I'll just create an img tag and I'll just type images slash and I'll just select menu icon.png, and we'll also give it a class and I'll just type menu icon. And we also need to add the close icon, but we will add that later. Right now let's go to our style.css file and let's style this mobile nav menu. So here I'll just type mobile nav menu and we'll just set the position to fixed and I'll just set it to the top. So I'll just type top 0 and we want these elements to be one next to the other. So I'll just type display of flex, and we want the elements to be one on the left and one on the right corner. So let's type justify content and set it to space between. And right now the icon is not going to the right corner because we don't have a height of 100% for this nav menu. So for that we have to set the left position to 0 and the right position to 0. Right now let's add some padding. So I'll just type padding, and for top and bottom I'll just set a padding of 16 pixels, and for left and right we'll have a padding of 32 pixels. And let's add a background color and we'll set the color to E0FBFC. And let's also add a box shadow. So I'll just type box shadow and we'll set the values to 0, 4 pixels, 16 pixels, negative 4 pixels, RGBA, and 0, 0, 0 and 0.3. And we'll also set the Z index to some higher value so that it will always be at the top. So I'll just set a value of 100. Right now let's style the logo. So I'll just type mobile nav menu logo and we'll set the font size to 28 pixels and we will set the font weight to 900, and we'll also set the font family to Roboto. Now here we can see that the icon is not perfectly in the center. So for that let's type mobile nav menu icons img and we'll set the vertical align to middle. And we also need to align items to the center here in the mobile nav menu. So here I'll just type align items to the center, and now everything is in the center. And that's basically it with the mobile version of our header. Now let's open the desktop version and let's see whether we have any problems in that. And here we can see if we scroll down we have the mobile nav menu displayed over here. So let's hide that in the desktop version. So let's go back to our CSS and here we'll just add a comment. I'll just type hidden items and here we'll just type mobile nav menu and we'll just set the display to none. And now we can see that the mobile nav menu is not displayed over here in the desktop version, but here in the mobile version we can see that the nav menu is being displayed. If you want to see how it looks on different devices, you can just right click over here and click on inspect and then click on this button called toggle device toolbar, and here we can see how it looks on a Pixel 2 XL device. Let's check out another device. So let's click over here and let's select iPhone 10, and this is how it looks on an iPhone 10. Now in this video we're going to add the menu items for this navigation menu, so that when you click on this button, the menu items should be displayed over here, and when you click on the close button, it should go back. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the HTML for the menu items. So let's go back to the HTML and let's create a division, and we'll give it a class of mobile menu items, and in that we need to have the menu items and also the social media icons. Now if I just open the desktop version, we can see that we have these menu items over here and also these social media icons. So we're going to add all of this to our mobile navigation menu as well. So let's go back to the mobile version. Now we have the same content that we have in the desktop version over here as well. So let's go back to the desktop navigation menu, and I'll just copy everything from here till the end of the social division, and let's scroll down and let's paste it over here. So here we can see the menu items and the social media icons. Right now let's style it using CSS. So let's go back to our style.css file and let's scroll down, and here let's add the styles for the mobile menu items. So here let's type mobile menu items, and first of all we'll set the position to fixed, and we'll set the height to 100 viewport height and the width to 100%, and let's set the top value to 0, and let's add a background color, and we'll just set the background color to C1FDFF. So here we can see the mobile menu items. Now let's bring all the text over here to the center. So let's type display of flex, and we'll align items to the center and justify content to the center. Now we want these menu items to be one below the other, so we have to set flex direction to column. Right now let's style these anchor tags. So let's type mobile menu items A, and we'll set a margin of 8 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right, and we'll set the font family to Roboto, and we'll also set the font size to 24 pixels, and we'll remove the underlines by typing text decoration to none, and we'll also change the color of the text to 073B4C, and we'll also change the font weight to 900. Right now let's style these images. So let's type mobile menu items img, and we'll set a margin of 16 pixels top and bottom and left and right, and we'll also increase the height to 36 pixels. Now when we have these menu items displayed over here, we need to have the close button over here. So let's go back to the index.html file, and here in the menu icons let's also add the close icon. So here I'll just type img, and in the src I'll just type images/close icon, and here we can see the close icon, and we'll also give it a class of close icon. Right now we don't want to display both these icons at once. So when we have the close icon, we don't want to display this icon. So we're going to add a class called active to the mobile nav menu when we have these menu items displayed over here. So when we have the active class, we're going to display the close icon, and when we don't have the active class, we're going to display the other icon. So let's go back to our style.css file, and let's scroll up, and here we can see we have given some styles for the menu icons img. Now let's target the close icon. So for that we have given a class called close icon. So let's target that over here. So here I'll just type mobile nav menu icons close icon, and by default we're going to set the display to none. Now when we display these menu items, we're going to add a class called active to the mobile nav menu. So when we have the active class, we're going to display this close icon. So here we'll just type mobile nav menu dot active. Now you have to make sure that you don't have any space between these two classes, because we want both these classes to be in the same element. And then we will type menu icons close icon, and we'll just set the display to block. And when we have the active class to the mobile nav menu, we also want to hide this icon right here. So let's type mobile nav menu dot active menu icons menu icon. Here we can see we have added a class called menu icon for this icon. So let's type display, and we'll set it to none. Right now let's add the active class to the mobile nav menu. So here I'll just add a class of active, and now we can see that the close icon is being displayed over here. And if we remove the active class, we have the other icon displayed over here. Now we have to do the same over here. When we have the active class over here, we want to display the menu items, and when we don't have the active class, we want to hide this. So let's go back to our style.css file and let's scroll down. And here what we're going to do is we're going to set the top value to -100 viewport height by default. So it will be at the top of the screen. And when we add the active class, we're going to bring it down. So let's type mobile nav menu dot active. Now if you go back to the HTML, we can see that we have the mobile nav menu and the mobile menu items divisions one below the other, so they are siblings. Now in such cases we have to use a selector called plus, and let's type mobile menu items, and here we'll set the top to 0, and we'll also add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition and we'll set all to 500 milliseconds, and we'll also set the easing value to ease in out. Right now let's add the active class over here. So here in the mobile nav menu, I'll just type active, and we can see that the menu items are displayed, and also this close icon is displayed over here. And if we remove the active class, the menu items are hidden, and we also have the other icon displayed over here. Right now let's add and remove these classes using JavaScript. So when we click on this button, we want to add the active class over here, and when we click on the close button, we want to remove the active class from the mobile nav menu. So let's go back to our file browser and let's create a JavaScript file. So I'll just create a file with the name of main.js, and we also need to link our JavaScript file over here in the HTML. So let's go back over here, and just before the body ends, I'll just type script src, and here I'll just type main.js. And before starting with our JavaScript, let's go back to our style.css file and let's hide this mobile menu items in the desktop version. So let's scroll up, and here in the hidden items, let's also add mobile menu items. Right now let's see what are the elements that we need to reference in our JavaScript. So if you go back to the HTML, we can see that we need to reference the mobile nav menu because we need to add the active class, and then we need to reference the menu icon and the close icon. So let's go to our JavaScript file and let's create a constant, and we'll just name it mobile nav menu, and we'll just type document.querySelector, and we have given it a class of mobile nav menu. And then we need to select the menu icon. So let's type const menu icon equals document.querySelector, and let's type mobile nav menu menu icon, and let's also reference the close icon. So let's type const close icon equals document.querySelector mobile nav menu close icon. Right now let's add an event listener to the menu icon. So let's type menu icon dot add event listener, and we will listen for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here, and we're going to add a class called active to the mobile nav menu. So let's type mobile nav menu dot class list dot add, and we'll just type active. And now let's add an event listener for the close icon. So let's type close icon add event listener click, and let's type mobile nav menu dot class list, and we need to remove the class. So let's type remove active. Right now this should work. So let's click on this menu icon, and we can see that the menu items are displayed over here, and we also have this close icon. Let's click on the close icon, and we can see that the menu items are hidden. So that's basically with the mobile version of our responsive header. Let's also check out the desktop version, and let's see whether we have any issues over there. And we can see that we don't have any problems over here. Everything works alright. So that's basically how you create a responsive header from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now this is the Blogger website where we're going to add our responsive header. Now let me show you the theme that I'm using. So if you go over here to the dashboard, and if you go to theme, I'm using the theme called Notable Light. So if you scroll down, we can see that it comes by default with Blogger. Previously I have also shown you how to edit these themes over here, like Emporio and Contempo themes over here. In this video we will edit this Notable Light theme. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a home page, and we're going to add this design to the home page, but we're going to add a custom redirect to the home page. Now whenever someone visits the home page of our website, we're going to redirect them to the custom home page that we create. So let's go back to our Blogger dashboard, and let's go to pages, and let's create a new page, and I'll just set the title as home, and here we'll just type testing, and let's publish this page and click on confirm. Now if we click on view on this page, we can see that this is how the page looks right now. Now we're going to change everything on this page and we're going to make it look like this design right here. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to redirect this home page to this custom home page. So I'll just copy this link from here, and let's go back to our settings and let's scroll down, and here we can see we have an option called custom redirects. So let's click on that and let's add a custom redirect, and here in the from field I'll just add a /, and here I'll just paste the link of the custom page. Now this / means the home page, and I'll just remove this part from here, and let's click on OK, and let's click on save, and let's check it once more, and we have two / over here, so let's remove one of them from here, and let's click on OK and save. Right now if we go to the home page of our website and if I refresh this page, we can see that we are taken to the custom home page that we just created. So whenever someone goes to the home page, they will be taken to this custom home page. And now here we can add our custom design. Now let's go back to our dashboard and let's go to pages, and let's open this home page, and let's remove this testing from here. And the first thing you have to do is go into the HTML view. So by default, if you are in the compose view, this is how it looks. You can click on this button and go to the HTML view, because we're going to add the code inside the HTML view. Right now let's add the HTML, the CSS and the JavaScript to our page. So let's go to our source code, and I will leave the link of the source code in the description. Alright, so let's copy everything inside the body. So I'll just start from this division right here, nav container, and we'll go all the way to the end of the body till here. And I'll just copy everything, and let's go back to our page, and I'll just paste it over here. And let's also paste the JavaScript. So here I'll just create a script tag, and I'll just type script and close it over here. And now let's go to our JavaScript. So here we have the main.js file. So I'll just copy everything from here, and let's just paste it over here. Alright, now let's add the CSS. So let's scroll all the way to the top, and here I'll just create a style tag, and here in the style tag I will add the CSS. So let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the style.css file, and I'll just copy everything from here, and let's paste it over here. Alright, so we have added the CSS, the HTML and the JavaScript. Now the next thing we need to do is add the images. So right now we have the img tag, and in the src we have this link over here, images / the image name. But in our Blogger website we don't have this images folder, so we have to upload the images and get the link and paste it over here. So let's do that. I'll just make some space over here after the style tag, and here I'll just click on this button called insert image, and let's click on upload from computer, and let's click on choose files, and here we have the images. So let's select all of these images, and let's click on open, and let's select all the images and click on select, and let's click on original size and click on OK. Now here we have all the images. I'll just make some space between each of these images so that it'll be easier for us to copy. Alright, now let's copy the links of these images. So here we can see first we have the link of the close icon image. So I'll just copy this link from here, and let's scroll down and let's look for the close icon image. So here we have the image, so I'll just delete this from here and paste our updated link. Right now let's copy the second image. So here we have the next image, which is facebook.png. So I'll just copy this link, and let's scroll down, and here we have the Facebook image, so I'll just paste it over here. And if you scroll down, here we also have one more link for Facebook, so I'll just paste it over here as well. Right now let's scroll up, and the next image that we have is the hero image, so I'll just copy this, and let's scroll down, and here we have the hero image, so I'll just paste it over here. Right, let's scroll up, and the next image that we have is Instagram, so I'll just copy this and scroll down and paste it over here. And we also have the Instagram image over here as well, so I'll just paste it over here as well. And then we have the menu icon image, so I'll just copy this, and let's paste it over here in place of the menu icon. And then lastly we have one more image, which is the Twitter image, so I'll just copy this and paste it over here and even over here. Alright, that's it with the links of all the images. Now we can just safely delete all these images from here. So I'll just select all of these and we'll just delete this. Right now let's click on update and let's go to our home page and let's see how it looks right now. So let's refresh this page. So this is how our home page looks right now. We have all the elements and the images and everything is displayed, but the styles are not correctly displayed. And we also have a lot of other extra elements in our home page. So here we can see we have this popular posts over here, we have this footer over here, and we also have this header over here by default, and we have the share button and all these things over here. Now let's hide all the elements that are not needed. So I'll just right click over here and click on inspect. Right, first of all, let's select this centered top container, and here we can see the selector of this element. And here if I just tap display none, we can see that the header is not being displayed. So I'll just copy this selector from here and let's go back to our page, and I'll just scroll up and I'll just add the styles over here. So I'll just make some space over here and I'll just paste the selector over here, and here we'll just type display and we'll just set it to none. And now if you update this and let's go back to our home page and let's refresh this page, and now we can see that we don't have the default header. Now in the same way we will hide all the other elements. So let's right click over here and go to inspect, and the next thing we need to hide is the post title container. So here we have the element. So this is the post title container. So let's add display of none over here, and now we can see that it is not being displayed. So let's copy this selector and let's paste it over here. I'll just add a comma and add it over here. Right now let's go back and let's see what else we need to hide. And here we can see we have another element called post header container. So let's select that and let's set display of none. And now we can see that we don't have the post header container. So let's copy this as well and let's go back over here and paste it right here. I'll just add a comma and paste it over here. Right now the next thing we will do is we will hide the popular posts. So here we have these popular posts. So if you scroll down, we can see we have a widget called popular posts, and here is the selector, and here we can just add display of none, and we can see that it works. So let's copy this selector and let's go back and I'll just paste it over here. Right now let's hide this footer that we have over here by default. So it has a class of footer. So let's copy this selector and I'll also add display of none over here so that we can be sure that it is hidden. And let's go back over here and paste the selector. Right, next we have this sidebar. So let's copy this selector. We can see we have a little bit of sidebar displayed over here at the right. So on the right we can see the sidebar. So let's hide that as well. So here I'll just type display of none. And now we can see that the sidebar is hidden. So let's copy this selector and let's paste it over here. And let's see what else we need to hide. So if we scroll up, we can see we have this division with the class of post bottom, and we also need to hide that. So let's select that. And here we can see we have the selectors for comments and shown add and post bottom. So let's select all of these and let's copy this. And I'll also add display of none over here. And let's go back and paste the selector over here. Now we'll just minimize this and let's see what else we need to hide. So here we can see we have this share button and we also have this text over here. So let's right click and click on inspect. So it is inside the centered top placeholder. So this is the selector, so I'll just copy this and we'll also add display of none over here, and let's paste the selector over here. Right now let's update this home page and let's go back and let's refresh this page, and now we can see that all the unnecessary elements are hidden. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to remove some margins and paddings, and also we have to reset some max width that we have for this theme. So let's right click and go to inspect, and if we scroll up and if we go over here to the post body, here we can see we have a margin right of 110 pixels. So we have to remove that. So I'll just type 0 over here and I'll just copy this selector and paste it in our CSS. and here we'll just set the margin right to 0. And let's move up one step, and here we have the post body container, and for this we have some margin and some padding. So let's remove all of them. So I'll just type padding 0 and margin 0. Alright, so let's copy this selector and let's paste it over here, and here I'll just type padding 0 margin 0. Right now let's move up, and here we have the post content container, and I don't think we need to make any changes over here. If we scroll down and if we take a look at this, here we can see whether we have any padding or border or margin. So you can check it out. You can just select the element and just hover over these padding, border and margin, and if it has some padding, border or margin, it will be displayed over here in the element. Alright, now let's move up and let's go to the post outer, and even here we don't have any padding or margin. And let's move up and we'll go to post outer container, and we don't have any padding or margin over here as well. Now let's move up and go to the blog posts, and even here we don't have any padding or margin. Let's move up and go to the blog widget, and here we can see we have a margin bottom of 85 pixels. So if we scroll down, here we can see the margin is being displayed. So let's remove the margin. So I'll just copy this selector, and here we have the margin bottom set to 85 pixels. So I'll just set it to 0. Let's go back and let's add it over here, and here I'll just type margin bottom and we'll set it to 0. Right now let's move up, and here we have the page body, and we don't have any padding or margin over here as well. Let's go to the centered bottom, and everything looks alright. Let's go to centered, and we don't have any margin or padding. Let's go to the page body, and here we can see we have some margin, and if you scroll up we can see that it has a max width of 1280 pixels. So that's why we have the margin on the ends. So we have to set the max width of the page body to 100%, or we can just unset it. So let's copy this page body selector, and let's go back and let's paste it over here, and here we'll just type max width and we'll just unset it. Alright, now let's update this and let's see whether we have any problems, and let's refresh this page. Right now there are some more things we need to fix. Now first of all, we can see that we have a lot of line height over here. So let's right click over here and go to inspect, and if you scroll down we can see that by default in the theme we have a line height of 2 for the post body. So we have to unset the line height. So I'll just type unset, and I'll just copy this selector, and let's go back over here and let's paste it over here, and I'll just type line height and unset. Now the next thing we will do is we will set the font size of these nav menu items. So if you go back to our design, here we can see we have a lot less font size. Now let's see what is the font size of these menu items. Now I have this Chrome extension called what font, so you can just search for it and install it on Chrome. So I'll just click on this and I'll just select this menu item, and here we can see all the information about the text, and here we can see the size is set to 16 pixels. And if we go over here and if we select this text, we can see that the size is 20 pixels. So by default the theme has this size of 20 pixels, so we have to set the size back to 16 pixels. So let's go back to our page and let's scroll down, and here we can see the selector for the anchor tag. So here I'll just type font size and we'll just set it to 16 pixels, and let's go back over here and refresh this page, and now we can see we have the correct font size. Now even for the buttons we have a font size of 16. So if we go back to our design and if we click on this button, we can see we have a font size of 16 pixels. So let's go back over here and let's scroll down, and here we have the selector for the button. So here I'll just type font size and I'll just set it to 16 pixels and update. Right now we have the correct font size for the buttons. Alright, now the last issue that we have with this design is that the size of the image is a bit more than the original size. So let's right click over here and click on inspect, and here we can see in the theme we have the height set to auto by default for all the images inside the container. So if I just remove this we can see that we have the correct height, and we also need to add object fit to cover so that we have the correct proportions. Now we have already added a height of 600 pixels for the img inside the image, which is inside the my header division. But the way CSS works is that it will give more priority to the selector that has more specificity. So here we can see we have body, item view, post body, container, and img. But here in this selector we just have my header, image, and img. So I'll just copy this from here and I'll just add it in front of this selector so that we will have more specificity. So let's go back over here and let's scroll down and go to the image selector. So here we have the image selector. Now before this selector, I'll just add these selectors over here, and we'll also set the object fit to cover, and let's click on update, and let's go back over here and refresh this page. And now we can see we don't have any problems with our design. And if we go to any other page in our website, so let's go over here to our posts, and let's click on this post right here, and we can see that everything works all right over here. But if you go to the home page, we are taken to our custom homepage design. So that's basically how you add a custom responsive header to your Blogger website. Now you can go ahead and change all of these elements to whatever you want. You have the source code over here. You can just make changes over here in the HTML and the CSS. You can also watch my previous videos where I have shown you how to design this from scratch, and you'll get a better understanding of how this works. Now if you want to go to the list of all the blog posts in your website, then you can go over here and just type index.html, and here we can see we are taken to the list of all the blog posts. Now you can simply add this to one of these menu items over here. I'll just quickly show you how to do that. So let's go back to our page and let's scroll down, and here instead of any of these menu items we can just add the link of the index. So I'll just remove services from here and I'll just type blog, and I'll just copy this link and paste it over here in the href, and here I'll just type index.html, and you can do the same over here in the mobile menu as well. So I'll just click on update, and let's go back over here and refresh this page, and now here you can see we have the blog menu item, and if I click on that, we are taken to the list of all the blog posts. And lastly, let's also check the mobile version. So let's right click over here and go to inspect, and let's click on this button called toggle device toolbar, and we can see that the mobile version looks fine as well. So everything looks alright. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and if you like this video, please click on the like button and also subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.